All right, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to be with us today. We've got Coach Drinkwitz here to preview the season opener against Alabama this Saturday at 6 p.m. on ESPN. With that, we'll kind of go over the format real quick. It'll be just like a normal one. As soon as Coach gives his opening statements, get your hands raised, and we'll go in the queue, and I'll moderate it from there. So with that, we'll have Coach address you guys with his opening statement. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, excited for game week, excited for the opportunity for this team to create its identity and who we're going to be in the 2020 season. Obviously, it's been a unique situation with all the different things, but we're finally in some sort of sense of normalcy and excited about the opportunity. I've got a couple of updates, roster updates, injury updates, and so forth, so I'll get through this real quick. Roster-wise, out for the season, Brenden Scales took a medical disqualification, medical red shirt, was just not able to get back from a foot injury that occurred, and so felt like it was in his best interest. Wish him well. He's going to graduate in December, and he's a great young man with a bright future. Thalen Robinson has opted out of the 2020 season. We wish him all the best, and we'll look forward to getting him back next year. And then Hiron White suffered a shoulder injury and has had season-ending shoulder surgery, so he will be out this year. For this coming week, Cy Martin is going to be out. He has a knee injury. We do anticipate we'll get him back hopefully in the next 2 weeks, but he will not be able to go this week. From COVID-related, we have 7 out for this week, but we still have 2 tests to go. We took a test yesterday and got our results back from Sunday's test, and we had 0 positives. So right now we're at 7. I know that I had initially stated 12, but there was an issue with our testing. One of the test results came back inconclusive, which deemed that to be a positive, and so therefore we contact traced several players. Once that inconclusive test was retaken multiple times with PCR swab and concluded to be a negative test, we were able to allow people to come back out of the contact tracing. So that's where we're at right now. The way I see it, way my calculations are, we'll be at 69 scholarship players available for the Alabama contest. We are going to release a depth chart. There are a lot of oars on the depth chart. There's still a lot of competition. Number one core value of who we are is always compete. You'll see an updated player on the depth chart. Trajan Jeffcoat was readmitted to the university last month. And after visiting with him and our team's leadership, we allowed him to rejoin our football team, and we're excited about moving forward with him as a member of the Mizzou Tigers. Talk about Alabama. Obviously a tremendous football team. I think it's one of the most talented football teams that Coach Saban's had in the last 3 to 4 or 5 years. A lot of experience on both sides of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, I think they've got 7 and really 8 returning starters on offense, and then 9 if you consider the quarterback started the last 2 games of the year. Outstanding running back, Najee Harris. Tremendous running back, 2 wide receivers that are elite NFL players that are first-round picks, and then a big physical offensive line, which is kind of the hallmark for Alabama football program. And they do a tremendous job. Coach Sark, one of the great offensive play callers in college football, and knows how to use his weapons. And so he's got a really good squad there, and I know that they're itching and raring to go. Obviously, Coach Saban as a defensive coach, tremendous on defense. They've got 2 very talented corners that are long, great change of direction, great ball skills at linebacker. They return Dylan Moses, who was a All-American player 2 years ago. Excited to see him back. Know he battled a ACL injury and came back, and so it'd be great to get a chance to compete against him. Got a physical defensive line that play hard, stop the run, get pressure the quarterback. Tremendous defensive scheme. Special teams, dynamic returners, solid. Obviously Coach Saban has been at Alabama 14 years. One of the best coaches in college football, and his record speaks for himself. But he's got a tremendous support staff. I mean, he's got more coaches as analysts with head coaching experience than I think I am years old, with Coach Strong, Coach Stoops, Coach Jones. Obviously you got Coach Sarkisian, Coach Flood that have head coaching experience. Special teams, Jeff Banks, one of the outstanding special teams coordinators, well respected within the coaching world. On the defensive side of the ball, you got Pete Golding, Coach Sinceri, Charles Kelly. I went against him when I was at NC State and he was at Florida State. So have a tremendous amount of respect for the coaching staff and players. It's going to be a tremendous challenge for our football program and our team. But we look forward to competing. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
All right, Coach, you'll see the monitor there. So when they ask the question, they'll pop up. First one's going to come from Dave Matter from the St. Louis Post. Dave, go ahead.
Hey, Eli, has your team been dangerously close to any of those position threshold minimums that the SEC announced last week? Has that been a concern?
We like to live dangerous, Dave.
Next one comes from Gabe DeArmond. Gabe, go ahead.
We got 69 scholarship players, Dave, so we're dangerously close to every threshold. So, it is what it is. But we're not any closer today than we were in the past.
Eli, at defensive end, two questions. First of all, with so much time off, where is Trajan at as far as football shape and being able to help you out? And then you didn't mention Jatorian Hansford, so I assume he's good to go for this weekend?
No, I'd already announced that he was out for the season with a shoulder injury, so I just didn't announce that old injury. So him, Mitchell Walters, both are still out with injury. Trajan's, reacclimated himself. He worked out on his own, is in good shape, and he's working to compete.
Peter, go ahead.
Hi, Eli. How much consideration, I guess, have you given to playing multiple quarterbacks within one game?
A lot.
Is that something we can expect on Saturday?
I can't manage your expectations.
Fair.
Colin, go ahead.
Hey, Eli, I was just curious if you've been able to get into a flow as you start game week here and what that's kind of been like as you get prepped for your first game here.
Honestly, I don't think with COVID or 2020 there's any type of flow or rhythm or routine to anything we try to do. I am into, an understanding of what has to get done during game week and, from this hour to that hour, what I have to make sure is finalized and, coming to this press conference, starting, low red zone before I came down here and ensuring that the quarterback meeting was already set. So I think there is some of that going forward, but every day there's a new challenge and when you're testing 3 times a week and, every time there's a positive, there's multiple contact trace. And so that's going to affect your depth chart and your roster. I don't know that there's ever going to be a situation where you feel like everything's in a rhythm or routine in a typical season.
Mitch, 40, go ahead.
Eli, a couple of those updates you provided on the roster were on the offensive line, where I know you've said you had some kind of rotating spots last time we talked to you. Has the team been able to find any more kind of continuity along that offensive line, or how much of a concern is that?
Yeah, Xavier Delgado has done a nice job of establishing himself as our left guard, and I think there's still a competition at the left tackle position. We feel really good about Michael Mayetti, Case Cook, and Larry Borum. But as with anything, we're at the mercy of each test we take each time we take it. So whenever those things come out. But yeah, as of right now, I think we feel pretty good about where the offensive line is and what we're trying to do moving forward.
Jack Sobel, go ahead.
Coach, you mentioned the receivers Waddle and Smith as really dangerous weapons on that offense. How does your secondary match up with those guys?
Well, those guys are tremendous football players, and they've got explosive speed. They've got yard after catch. They run detailed routes. I think their wide receivers coach does a really good job of making sure those guys understand spacing and releases. We'll find out Saturday how they match up. They haven't played those guys before, so we'll find out Saturday. And we got good back end players, and we're excited about that opportunity. So.
Soichi Terada, go ahead.
Full name. Hey, Eli. I was wondering, has there been any discussion about what would happen if those inconclusive, kind of the same situation happens with those inconclusive tests on like a Friday before game day or anything?
Yeah, that would be a question for the league office or the SEC medical task force. I'm unclear on what that would be, to be honest. I would like to clarify, the seven players that are out, that is not all positives. That's a combination of whether it was positives or contact tracing. So that's not all positive cases. That's a result of a couple of positives from previous testing and then the contact tracing that occurs with that. But to answer your question, I don't know that. We did the SEC hired an outside testing source, and so all that really goes through, I think the company's named PAE, and all that information comes through them. It doesn't really have anything to do with us. They're the ones that notify us of the inconclusive test, and then they notified us that test was then deemed to be negative.
Seren Petro, go ahead.
I gotta get used to this.
Coach, I've asked several coaches, both pro and college, about this. I'm just curious, does all the stuff you're having to deal with that is out of the norm, all the COVID things, you think that is going to magnify the difference, like well-coached team, well put together, you're going to look that much better? Or is this something that maybe brings everybody back to the middle, right? It kind of muddies the waters and makes everybody closer.
I have no idea. We haven't experienced it. I think, I think when you watch college football, you can tell the teams that haven't played yet, and the inexperience, the lack of tackling, the turnovers, the poor, handling of clock management and penalties. That's something we've tried to really focus on and make sure that we can clean up as best we can. In the NFL, the teams with proven head coaches and guys who proven, that they know what they're doing and have started off pretty well. So I think it'll be kind of a combination of both. I don't think there's a magic formula, and I don't think any of us have exactly what the right process is to how to handle all this stuff. I think we're all trying to do the very best we can. And just like anything, you'll learn, all right, we shouldn't have done this, we shouldn't have done that. I think the head coach at Navy, didn't appreciate the way his plan came together week one and then changed it, got back to a win on week two. So, we'll all find out. And, it's going to be a long season, 10 SEC games. We're going to have to adjust and learn to adapt each week. And that's what will make it fun.
Eric Blum, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Going into the game against Alabama, what do you particularly like about your running backs now that you've seen them at least for a little while now, and with Larry and Tyler and maybe others?
Yeah, I think Larry's got good vision. He runs really hard. He's tough to tackle. He understands our schemes, what we're trying to do in the run game. Tyler's explosive. He's got great vision and does a nice job of hitting the crease, and he's got elite speed. We're Dawson Downing's been a guy that can do a lot of different things for us. He's a kind of an all-purpose guy. He can, run, protect, catch the ball out of the backfield, and then, hopefully Elijah gets an opportunity to do something this week. He was knocked out a little bit with a shoulder injury, but he's been back full speed for the last 2 weeks. So hopefully we can get him in there and get him a couple of reps, a guy that really impressed us early in camp with his vision and toughness running the football. And, for him, it's all going to be about ball security. I think one of the things that really stands out when you watch this team is, their ability to force turnovers. They're constantly striking at the football, trying to force fumbles. I think they were third in the country last year in turnover margin. And I think they had 28 turnovers last year, which is that is a lot of forced turnovers, nearly 2 a game. So we got to do a great job of protecting the football, and that'll be a focus for our running backs.
Dave Matter, you're up.
Eli, to your knowledge, is Missouri and/or the SEC any closer to daily testing? It would seem like Alabama's sort of at a competitive advantage to most teams when they can test daily.
I believe the SEC policy is that we're testing 3 days a week. I think that's what we're doing. I think that's what we're doing. That's what we are doing. I don't know that it's a competitive advantage, disadvantage. I know that's what we're doing. I'm not an epidemiologist, although I talked to one last night. And just as a reminder, testing doesn't protect you from the virus. It just tells you whether or not you have the virus or not. So it's really about your personal responsibility and how you handle yourself outside of the building or outside of the conduct that you're here, which is going to ultimately keep us or you safe from the virus. Whether or not you test for it is just giving you an indication of, whether or not you have it at that moment. The problem with tests is that they can be invalid the moment you get done taking the test, because you could go expose yourself to the virus if you go to Harpo's and there's a bunch of people there.
Thanks.
Kaufman, go ahead.
Coach, just you made it to game week. Definitely was an uncertainty months ago. You finally made it. I guess what's your excitement level and from you and the team that the game is 4 days away?
Yeah, we're just trying not to peak too soon. We're pretty excited, but we got a lot of work to do. It's Toughness Tuesday. We had a lift this morning. We got to get, we got to get a good practice in today, focusing on our rundowns and second 7+ and making sure we know the nuts and bolts of the game plan. We'll get excited and all that stuff, but you don't beat a team like Alabama with excitement. You beat them with fundamentals and execution. And so that's really the focus that we have. I'm not gonna, like I said, peak too soon.
Gabe, go ahead.
Yeah, Eli, back to speaking about a competitive advantage. Some coaches have specifically cited that as reasons for not, telling people how many guys they have out and all that. Just what went into your thought process of kind of keeping people updated and with no, as far as I know, guideline as to how you have to handle it?
Transparency. This is a public health issue. It's not a competitive advantage issue. This is not an injury that we're trying to keep. This is a public health issue, and people should know, what's going on within our football team as it relates to a pandemic is where I would start. And I would say that that's probably, for me, more important than, whatever competitive advantage we feel like it might be to win or lose a football game. I would still cite that a pandemic probably is more important than that, although I do believe in the value of football and believe in what we're doing and excited about the opportunity to represent the state of Missouri on Saturday. Excited for people to not have to focus on the pandemic and be able to watch us and this team compete and help us create our identity for what we're going to try to accomplish this year relative to the terms of this senior class. And so I think for me, what went into it was just honesty and the approach that the pandemic overrides competitive advantage.
Bill Pollock, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, what's it going to take to beat Alabama? What does your team need to do?
Yeah, we're going to have to play physical football. They are a tremendous football team in the trenches, and we're going to have to match that physicality. We're going to have to play fundamentally sound, be great tacklers. And we're going to have to protect the football. And really, those are the areas that when you watch, an Alabama coach football team, that's what they do. And you're going to have to beat them at their own game. You're not going to trick them. You're not going to, get lucky against them. You're going to have to go out there and you have to execute at a high level. You're going to have to play fundamentally sound. You're going to have to protect the football. And that's a challenge that we've actually been working towards all fall camp. That's a challenge every day at practice, is that you go out there and you execute, you practice fundamentally sound, you take care of the football. And those are the things that we do every single day. And so that's, obviously this is a team that competes for national championships. I think they're ranked number 2 in the country, which, in my opinion, is probably too low. It's going to be a great opportunity to see where we're at and where we have to be in order to compete in the future. And I, for one, and our coaching staff, and I know the senior leadership and the captains on this football team are excited about the opportunity to compete. And we're excited about the test that it's going to be.
Mitch Forty, go ahead.
Coach, Alabama under Nick Saban, they've recently, in a lot of years in a row now, opened the season against Power 5 opponents, and not just one, but one big in a lot of those games. Aside from just the obvious talented nature of that program, what makes them so good in season openers?
I have no idea. I didn't watch all their season openers. I've been coaching myself, so I have no idea what they do in their season openers compared to what everybody else does. I'm not really worried about what they've done in the past on their season openers. I'm focused on what we've got to do in order to play well in this game. And, last time I checked, they don't get to bring those games or those players to this game. They get to bring what they got this year and get to bring what we got this year. So, I don't know about all the comparisons to previous years. But if we got to do that, I might bring Chase Daniels back.
Suichi, go ahead.
Hey, Eli. I was just kind of curious, from your perspective, what would constitute a successful 2020 season from a football and off-field perspective?
Wow. I think for our football team, we're laying a foundation for a program that I hope to be here for a long time for. And anytime you're building a program, it starts with, living by your core values, on a daily basis and showing those core values when you compete. So obviously for us is to always compete in everything we do. We want to be a competitive football team. We want to compete in every game. We want to continue to build trust and respect within the community and within the university and represent this university in the right way. We want to do more than what's expected. I think some teams I saw where the over-under for us is 3 wins. So obviously we want to do more than what's expected, and we want to enjoy the journey as we go along. As always, our stated goal is to represent the university with class, integrity, and academic excellence. So we'd like to make sure that our students or our student athletes do great in the classroom and do everything the right way and then represent this university with class. And then, we'll let the games take care of themselves. We've got tremendous challenges ahead of us, on that schedule. But right now I'm focused on this challenge on Saturday and where that goes. And whatever happens Saturday is not going to define the season one way or the other. It's just going to be the starting point of where we have to go. And no matter what happens on Saturday, we know that Sunday is going to be all about improving and getting better. And that's really my focus right now.
All right, guys, we got time for a couple more, so I'm going to get some people in here who haven't had a chance to ask a question yet. Greg Palermo, go ahead. I guess he's gone. Ben Arnett, your turn.
Oh, I'm back.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Greg. Then you're up, Ben Arnett.
Sorry about that. 2 things real quick. On Brenden Scales, is that a medical retirement, or do you expect him back in a post-grad year?
No, that's a medical retirement. He's he's no longer going to play football. And it was a tough conversation. And I know it was very difficult for him to make that decision ultimately. For everybody, football ends. That's why in our program we talk about chasing 2 dreams, a life with football and a life after football. And we know that this game ends for everybody at some point. And we want these guys to be a positive contributor to society. That's why we're so adamant about making sure they get their degree and utilize all their connections within this university as best they can in order to be successful in their communities. But it is a medical retirement.
Okay.
Ben.
And lastly,
go ahead, Greg.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they turned the lights out. Go ahead.
Okay. And then I know some other programs have had to cross-train players and to fill gaps either out by COVID or injuries. Have you done that, or do you think the conference's protocols would kind of get in the way of you needing to do that?
I mean, we have Wildcat built in all of our game plans. So, I think we're good from a quarterback situation if we need to end the game or just in the base part of who we are with the Wildcat stuff. On the defense side of the ball, there's protocols in there for a reason. Same thing with the offensive line. So, we would probably let the protocols handle that. I mean, the reality of it is they only gave us 25 practices in order to prepare for week 1 in 42 days. So they didn't really equate for us to be able to allow crossover training in a practice. So, sorry, that's a tangent. My fault.
Ben Arnett, go ahead.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, Coach, and I'm sorry if you already addressed this. I had to jump on late. You've mentioned in the last couple of weeks about not being able to get into the routine. Now that we're here, game week, are you able to get into something more resembling what you'd like the routine to be? And if so, how's that benefiting you now?
Yeah, I mean, I said something a little bit earlier about this, but I mean, it's a semblance of a routine. But again, with COVID, there is no such thing as a routine. there's always constant information changing. I referenced the testing issue that we've already had, the new testing protocols. The SEC announced today that we're wearing, something during game day to contact trace. I mean, there's always something new and improving, and that's part of what this year is all for. Again, we do the best we can trying to be into a routine. I know what Tuesday practice is supposed to look like. I know it's Toughness Tuesday. And I think I call it Toughness Tuesday because I have to do this press conference too. But so we're kind of rocking and rolling there.
All right, Kyle Pinnell.
Yeah, Coach, you just talked about your routine and on the field, but as a coach going into a game week against Alabama, what's your preparation like from a head coach perspective? And then what are some more of those final tune-ups you're trying to make before Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really preparing for a week one opponent. Obviously, it's a tremendous opponent in Alabama, but it doesn't cause us to do anything different than we would have if we were preparing for UCA. It's an opponent. I've prepared for opponents before as a head football coach, so we're not doing anything extra or special or focusing any more on this than we would any other opponent. We have a 1-0 mentality that starts over each week, and that's what we do. Obviously there's as much film as I want to watch and have been able to go back. We had the game plan in for a couple of weeks now and have been able to go back and watch and, finalize, okay, I really do like this versus this look. Oh, there's questions on this play. Don't know if we're going to necessarily like that. Defensively, are we sure we've covered this enough? This looks like a DNA, pass play that they like to cover on, second down, or this is a shot down, or this is how they want to get the ball to Jalen Waddle, or we've covered all that stuff specific to Alabama, but we're not doing anything extra because we're playing the number 2 team in the country.
All right, guys, we'll let Coach go with that. Thanks. If you guys want to hang on afterwards, we'll go over some of the game day policies and procedures for you from a media standpoint. So sit tight 2 seconds.
Thank you. Do I have these guys again, or is this the last time I have them? Media. Do I have another one? Do I have to after practice? No more? All right, guys. Hope you got all your questions out. Talk to y'all later.